Here he is.
You said 7:01. I'm 7. I'm a minute early. What's going
Right
on,
on the
Gene?
time, dude. Right on time. Jay, great to have you here for the first time on Instagram Live with us on LA Retro. I just have to really just kind of get off the bat rolling. You have one of the most interesting stories in video games, specifically for people who are not into video games. And we'll get all into all those details, but I kind of just want to give people a little bit of an introduction to who you are. Jay Baam is actually rated by 4, which is one of the big major, I would say, social media influencer ranking platforms, as being ranked as one of the top influencers. You got some fans. You got a stalker on the other side.
I have 2 ER nurses who are getting really drunk outside.
Well, you're ranked as one of the top social media influencers in the video game vertical, specifically in the tri-state area. So I'm not sure if you're even aware of that.
I'm not. No.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. You were telling me earlier that you never really intended to have this big following on Instagram. So if you could just tell me how that all kind of started and what happened.
All right, let me start off by saying I don't mod consoles. I never developed a game in my life. I'm just a man who buys way too much crap. I mean, that's what I do. But I kind of at some point I was let me start connecting with fellow like-minded people. So I started up my first social media page ever, because I'm kind of a dinosaur halfway there. Anyway, and it just started to kind of take off. And I think it was because I really just wanted to get to know people. I enjoy talking to people, on a regular basis. That's just my personality. So I think that's maybe the main factor in that was just the enthusiasm to get to know people like yourself, Gene. I mean, we've gotten to know each other over social media.
Yeah, I should just mention this. I've known Jay for a little bit over a year, and it's kind of crazy. And just to let you know your reach, I want to give you people who are watching this at home, and I see Kevin just joined.
Kev. I love Kev.
I went to Toronto for the first time in my life about a year and a half ago. And, I started asking, I started to get to know the guy, and I met this guy, Kevin, over in Toronto. And I just, told him, I don't really know many people who are in the video game scene in the tri-state area. And he was like, have you heard of this guy named Jay Baam? And I was like, no, who is he? And I saw you on Instagram, and I was like, wow, this guy
I'm going to have to tell
is in another country.
Big shout out to the nurses right now who are making this painful.
and Jay, tell me a little bit, your wife is actually a healthcare worker. She's out there in the front lines, and, you're also considered an essential worker as right now as well. So, this is a very, let's be blunt about it. This is a very difficult time, and you guys are out there. And so,
it's scary, I mean, it's an interesting time in history, right? We're living literally history right now. Gene and I are both in what we would consider the epicenter of the United States epidemic right now, pandemic. It's real. For those of you who are not in our area, they are literally every day. Oh, I had to hold my dog up. They are really cool. Might be turning this phone around. Sorry, my wife's got a great sense of humor. They're right now working on the front lines. Today's their day off, their only day off. So they've been doing 6 days a week, 12 to 16-hour shifts. So it's been rough. As far as me, I'm an elevator technician by trade. So I have to go out there and maintain elevators in transit. I'm maintaining elevators in hospitals, etc. Retirement homes, nursing homes. So we're all kind of right in the midst of it. It's scary.
Well, I just want to get right off the bat. Thank you guys for everything that you guys are doing right now. I know if you guys were here in New York, I'm actually right now here in Manhattan. And if you were hearing us at 7 o'clock, they'd be cheering for you right now as well.
Well, they'll be cheering for them. I mean,
you would hear the big cheers and all that. So,
I'm just a grease monkey.
Yeah, well, listen, everyone is playing a big role right now, and you're playing a big role right now. And just even being here with us tonight is a big deal. So, just to kind of go back to again, your reach again, a lot of people know you just outside of the New York area. It's not just, you're not just a New York guy. We'll even get more into the details about who you are and what you do. But, do tell again, like how this following, just started to build up like over time.
Uh, yeah. So basically, when I started doing social media, I'm guessing you're assuming how I got to where I'm at now. Is that the question?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think like,
Yeah.
it wasn't something you expected. You weren't
No,
planning
no,
on
no.
being a big influencer. You just happened to love
No.
video games, and
It's the same way I didn't expect to have the collection that I have now, right? It started off where I would, just kind of post, things like, hey, I fixed my Nintendo today, I was an elevator mechanic running around New York City, so I started bringing games around with me. I was taking pictures from rooftops because I was an elevator mechanic, and I had access to places other people didn't have. It was really passion driven. Then it started me going to people on the street and be like, do you remember this? Have you ever seen this before? Then it got really crazy, where I was like setting up games for total strangers to come up on the street off of an AC converter. I've had, yeah, it was really cool. It was a cool experience, right? So it's 2 a.m. You're in the middle of Manhattan. You got cops driving up. You have homeless people coming to crying on my shoulder one night, which this was the most touching moment I ever had. Like, last time I played the PlayStation 1 is the last time I lived in a home.
yeah.
We're having this human moment, and I think that doing those pure things like that kind of got me to here, which was completely unexpected, and I appreciate it. And I'm just a regular guy. I know
Well,
it's weird to hear it, like
when
top.
when most people see your collection, it's when the stuff that you post on Instagram, it's like insane because we've had some other interviews and we discussed like what it's like to be a retro gamer in New York and trying to get retro games. And surprisingly, New York is not like a really easy place to, there's no like, people
No.
always, you hear online, like people say, oh, I discovered this at like some garage sale, or I found it at a Goodwill. And I'll tell you right now, I've been to 1,000 Goodwills looking for video
Yeah.
games, and they are just like wiped out here in New York.
It was easier at one point, like when you're going back 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and this wasn't the hobby that it is now, right?
Yes.
You could find some really amazing things, but we are in the most densely populated area in the country. So if you really want to go find that, you've got to be knocking on doors at 6 a.m. if it's a garage sale, or you got to hit 6 Goodwills as opposed to just luckily going into one. So it does take a lot of effort.
And how long has your collection, how long has this you've been collecting, or how long has it taken you to get to where you are right now?
17-ish years, I would say.
That's
I
a full adult lifetime right there.
Yes, basically, yes. So
Wow.
it started out
like
with
the
me
craziest.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was gonna say, what's been like the craziest thing that you've actually collected, or had to bring?
Like the craziest piece I ever found, or like
Just like what's been like the most insane story of like, dude, I just got this thing, or
I
it's
don't
like
know
800
I don't know
pounds.
if I could. I don't know if I could tell it.
Uh,
I've got a gaming story that I don't think I should ever speak about in public, man. But we'll put it this way: I found myself in the middle of nowhere at someone's house in a very strange situation, and I look down and I'm looking all over the house, and I'm like, there's like $10,000 worth of stuff laying on the floor here. I mean, like I was talking like a 9.4 Evo CIB on the floor.
a what?
Yeah,
What?
I know. All right. So I walked into a house in upstate New York
Uh-huh.
for like one thing, and it was a really sketchy, strange situation. But I'm looking around and I'm like, I look on the floor and I'm like, I buy things like this. Do you have any more of this? And as I start looking around the house, I'm like, oh my God, there's like 10 or 15 grand here, and I bought the whole thing.
Wow. And do people know what they have?
I try to be really
like,
honest.
are they aware? Like, hey,
So,
I got this.
I think now as time goes on, they are.
Yeah.
I think that's happening. But I try to be honest with people. Like when I go to buy from someone, and if it's too cheap, I gotta be. I have to look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, this is worth more, but this is what I'm willing to pay.
Yeah.
So there are scenarios where you can walk in and you're like, oh my God, you have no idea this is a $200 game. Yeah,
Wow. And so like some of the kiosks that you've that you've collected. No, first of all, like I just gotta be honest and like, how are you just transporting these things? Because like
My back is hurting.
yeah, I believe I saw like you had an Xbox kiosk, and that thing is like massive.
Dude, I will go on record and I will say the Wii U, the slash Wii U kiosk
Yeah.
is probably the heaviest damn thing on the planet. It's all solid steel at the bottom. The GameCube one, I gave a GameCube one away to help raise money for a child that was suffering from liver cancer and needed a liver transplant. That's going back like 4 years ago. But those two were probably like the beasts. Like like at least you could split the Xbox One in half. You know, it's okay. But my whole career I've been moving heavy stuff, so but it's not easy.
What's been the most like surprising find? You would say like, oh wow, like like someone just happened to have this thing. And you're like, I can't believe like they had it.
I've it's kind of hard to say. I mean, I've walked in and found $50 games laying on top of garbage cans in the middle of Newark, New Jersey. I feel
really?
Like, I swear to God. Actually, I posted it. It was a few months ago.
Wow.
But I guess if you have what's luck, opportunity meets preparedness. So I guess you start to notice really strange things like that when you're always hunting for one specific genre. Like I found things so randomly, it's not even funny. Like going back to the story, I went in to go pick up something from somebody that I didn't know, and I ended up walking in with a collection that just turned into a 30% larger collection in one day. So sometimes you get lucky.
Are you like actively seeking? Like, I mean, generally speaking, as you're going to day to day, is this like something that you typically are on the hunt for, or is you just kind of just like, if it happens, it happens? Like if it just comes by you, you just go for it.
Very, very rarely will I, how can I explain it? Like I'm always looking because I'm a completionist, by nature. I got obsessive with it. I can't help it. Like I'm always trying to get that next piece. But I am satisfied with walking home with $1 game I never owned before, as opposed to $1,000 game. It doesn't matter to me. I get the same high from it.
Gotcha.
I'm excited to save that piece of gaming history and be able to share it with people.
Gotcha.
That's just kind of it. But very rarely will I be like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna pay overpriced for this. I do try to govern myself where it's like, okay, I'm always trying to find a good deal. Not crazy deal, but just respectable.
So if you found like a sealed Superman 64, you may have to hold back.
It had maybe because you quoted like the worst game ever, but however, I would indeed buy that.
Sorry, I had a little bit of a lag.
I saw that. The way I look at games in general is I look at them as pieces of art. Their life trying to develop this and create cover art for it. Or we were talking earlier, on the phone, making music for it. They are a form of art, and so they all should be protected.
So we actually just got a question that just came in, and if anyone has questions, there's a little question box right next to the comment bar. Feel free to put in your questions for Jay Baam. But Retro Switch Guy just asked, what are you most aggressively collecting right now?
Your phone number, because I can't find it. By the way, we're buddies, and I don't have his number on my phone anymore.
Actually,
so text me your number.
People would probably want to know this answer from you, Jay, because it will give people an indication of what's gonna get hot eventually.
All right.
So eBay prices will probably go up the minute you say this answer. So.
Okay. Well, one I'll start by saying, don't ever collect because it's an investment. Mm-hmm. Right. That's the last thing on my mind when I go buy things. I would be the last person to tell you. I could tell you specifically. I know GameCube is going up and up and up in price right now. I mean, there's something going on in the GameCube market that I've noticed. My friend and business partner, Dan from Video Games New York, we'll get into that later. But he can't get enough GameCube. But me particularly,
he can't get enough GameCube. Like they can't get enough stock of games.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, so I noticed that's a real trend right now is GameCube. As far as for me, I'm most excited to add to my NES and Super Nintendo collection. There's no doubt about it. Those are my two favorites. So I'm always going to try to find that next piece for those. So I'm always very aggressive with that.
And generally speaking, Jay, what are, I guess, your fondest memories of retro gaming? Like
I've said this story a million times over, but it's the one that really matters to me is my connection to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. My father was a boxer, and I always go on by saying tough street guy, didn't care for gaming. That was the only game we ever played together. So for me, it's an emotional response. That's my absolute emotional connection to gaming. Is that right there?
Yeah.
So hi, nurses.
They have them join in.
Yeah.
In fact, I love to ask her a question.
Sure. Kath, come here. Kath, no. Ivana's been drinking way too much vodka. This is another nurse practitioner. Our good friend.
Because this is hello.
Hi.
Hello, Kat. Beautiful wife of Jay. We have a very honest question. As someone who is the spouse of a retro gamer,
this is my friend. No.
Oh.
This is our friend Amana.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Kat.
I'm the friend of the spouse.
Come on.
I need to talk to the spouse. I need to talk to the spouse because this is a real genuine question.
Here, this is the spouse right here. Looking right at you.
That's my
So Jay has an enormous collection. As the spouse of someone with an enormous collection, how do you look at that? How do you?
We were just having that conversation.
Yeah. Because a lot of us who are retro gamers and game collectors and are lucky enough to have a significant other.
It's a tough subject to answer. Very tough, actually. I can't. You know what? There's days that I like it, and then there's days I go down there and I'm like, how did this evolve to this monstrosity? Because that's what I look at it. It just started and it snowballed.
Now, do you ever look at it and then just see dollar bill signs all over the place and say hey, honey, I don't know if you realize this, but we got kind of like a 401k.
Oh yeah.
I know that. Every single day.
Single day.
Oh yeah. And then I hurt even more, and then I want to vomit.
We'll do a next episode on our divorce papers. So just to put this in context, my wife is actually a minimalist. I mean straight up minimalist, and that's why I guess we're together, right? We kind of opposites attract.
It's great because the space that she doesn't take up, you've now filled it with all of the video games you've got. And I think honestly that's a legitimate question. I'll be honest, this actually is a real personal thing, but I was meeting a girl and then she started asking me what my hobbies and interests are, and then I started telling her I'm a big retro retro collector. And she's like, wow, do you have a lot of games? And I had to be like, maybe a little bit. I didn't want to reveal too much.
There's a stigma there.
Yeah.
I try to break those boundaries. I always tell everybody, we're not relegated to live in the basement as a gamer. There's some really dynamic personalities in this community, and we do really amazing, interesting things. So just because I have a ton of video games, that isn't all I do.
And this is where we're going to get into really the cool story behind you. Well, so for people who don't know about Jay, he's not just any other social media influencer. What he's been known for now is building gaming installations for some of the biggest pop culture brands in the business. When I first discovered you, you may have to refresh my memory of the name of the festival, but I first discovered you because you did a massive gaming installation for a festival where ASAP Ferg, or essentially the ASAP mob was headlining. This thing was huge.
That was the first big event we ever did. Mm-hmm. So that was the prototype, and that was a hell of an experience. So it was in Brooklyn. The event was called No Ends Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. It was hosted by a company called Dope Roots. Mm-hmm. That was sponsored by X Games, and ASAP Ferg and ASAP Rocky, and they were all the headliners of that event. That was what I thought was the biggest undertaking in my life at the time. I got a 25,000-pound rental truck.
Wow.
Which is the biggest you can get without a CDL, right? The biggest box truck you can rent. And I filled it up with, I had 36 setups there. So that was either kiosks, arcade machines, CRT TVs, that was steel barrels, pallets.
Wait, hold on. You got steel barrels?
Yeah, I actually still have them. I actually they're tagged in it now by the One Up crew. I don't know if you're familiar with those artists.
I am, but I mean, first of all, that is the most video game thing if you think about it. That's in like fixture, steel barrels and wooden crates. I don't know why we video game.
It was Streets of Rage, man. It was Streets of Rage. It was literally so. To get that one done, especially it being the first time, I really came at it from my contractor's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I really organized myself like the elevator mechanic that I am, right? I had all my tools, I had all the cordage, everything packed away perfect. It took me 7 days to get everything packed up and ready out of my house. And then it took me an 18-hour day to get that loaded on the truck. The crew that helped me put that together, I put together that week. So I didn't sleep from Friday till Sunday morning because I had to have it all loaded in Friday afternoon. I had to have it all out by Sunday, 8 o'clock in the morning. So it was literally 10 days of hell of an effort, and it was damn near 3 days of no sleep.
Wow, that is a crazy load in. And so, typically when you're trying to, all right, first of all, when you're trying to set that installation up, how are you kind of planning like a layout? Or do you just already have something in mind, or is it like, hey, like, I'm just gonna put it where I can put it.
It's always, you always go into it with a plan, and you always have to think on your feet how to make it happen when you're there, because nothing goes right, ever. Right. So it's a little bit of both, right? I get the dimensions of the floor plan. I propose a concept, and then that concept, I put that package together, and then I always have a gigantic toolbox with me so that I can make it happen, because once you get there, things change.
And typically, let's be honest, like, what are some of the problems that may just like, or let's talk about like that festival. What were some of the issues that just like randomly occurred? Was power cords or...
I was the most prepared contractor there. I don't. All right. So what I learned from that experience, and this goes for anything in life. Everybody that's listening, if you believe in something, you can move a mountain. I am passion-driven person. There was no way in hell I was going to fail at that, right? And that goes for everybody here. You can do that. What I found in that experience was I had people coming up to me who've been doing entertainment installations their whole life going, can I borrow that razor blade? Do you have any zip ties?
Wow.
I just there's something about this particular thing that I'm doing that I was meant to do.
Wow.
But it's never easy. It's the physical exhaustion that probably is the hardest thing.
And during the installation, well, first of all, when I saw it on Instagram, I didn't even know much about the festival, like who was even performing. I had no idea, like the
Neither did I.
was even there. But when I saw the installation that was happening, I was like, holy heck, this is what I want. I actually wanted to go just for that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go because the tickets were already, I guess, like sold out at that moment.
Wish you called me, man.
Yeah. I didn't know you yet.
I could have used some help moving the TV.
I want to get in on this, and I want to go specifically for that reason. I could care. No disrespect to the ASAP mob, but I want to go for that reason, to experience that, because I think what most people don't realize, because we're, everyone that's probably watching this is probably a big, big retro gamer.
Yeah,
video
we're
game
speaking
players.
to our crowd.
We're speaking to our scene here.
Yeah.
But for the most part, most of the people who are not really into video games, or really kind of just like, maybe even just casual gamers, they don't understand really the allure of our culture, the culture of video games, until you can give them an experiential, activation.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the great things of like the stuff that you've been setting up, is that you're not setting up just like, a traveling arcade or a traveling installation. You're basically bringing a time capsule or an experience that exposes the culture of video games to people who, in all honesty, probably are not really the biggest video game fans, and they will see video games in a different context. They'll see it in the same context as where they view, a music festival or an art exhibit. Like, they will put it in that same category. And I think that's one of the things that you've been doing that, is elevating the medium and elevating really kind of the art of video games and putting it into a different perspective. So Has anyone ever kind of just in doing your installations, have you ever kind of met some animosity?
Oh yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. You know, the way you deflate it is by confronting it right away. So you know, we've known each other for a while, so I know you're aware that I spent a year and over a year at a New York City Art Gallery with my collection. And we ended up doing like almost 60 events in 1 year. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I swear. We'll get into that number in a second, but let's talk about my initial introduction into that culture. There was a female artist who was not a gamer, who kind of had those misconceptions about our culture. And when I was there and I was putting my equipment in there, she kind of, as polite as she could be as a skeptic, said, "I just don't really get it." Mm-hmm. You know, and I don't really get what you're doing here. I said, "Well, this is art." And she goes, "How so?" And you could see the cynicism, you know, in that statement. And I said, "Give me your hand." And I literally grabbed her by the hand and I walked her to my Xbox One kiosk, and I had Cuphead playing. And I said, "You see this video game, and when you look at it, you see a video game. But when I look at it, I see a hand-drawn video game. I see a game that took years to develop, that an artist drew everything by hand here. I listen to the music and I hear the musicians who are making the music of it. I see the marketing team who's able to make this seem enticing to individuals, because it's also about the marketing, right? That's what we like." And I go, and then at the end of the day, I'm looking at the 4 people that are sitting around this TV and having nothing but pure, innocent fun together. And I said, that's what art is. It's engaging, it's creative, it's visually appealing. And by the time we had that conversation, it was over. She goes, "I get it." No, do I think she ran home and bought 15 NES games after that? No, but she had respect for our culture.
And you're right. You know, I think it's for a lot of people who are, you know, casual gamers or just really not into video games, when they kind of see it, you know, all the lights and the flashing and, you know, even kind of like the aesthetic of the technology in play, they tend to look at, you know, the medium a little bit differently. You know, it's like this. It's, as I best say, like, I'm not a big art guy, but then when I go into a museum and I see, you know, a Van Gogh,
yeah,
there's a different sense of emotion seeing it in person and, you know, being there. And I think, you know, I could only, my hope is actually not for more people who play video games or to see your stuff, to see your installations. My hope is actually to people who are not video gamers to have the chance to experience.
That's mine too.
You know, because we'll come, like those, like our theme, they're gonna show up no matter what. We're not the people that really you're catering for. You're really trying to bring it to the masses. That's like the bigger, you know, mission. You're
kind of hitting me right here with your line of speak here, because that's my goal, right? Like I tell everybody, I'm a preservationist. I want to see the things that I grew up with and the things that you grew up with and multi-generational, and I want to see them preserved. And the only way you're going to be able to keep that ball rolling is by constantly engaging new people. You know, if you keep a community this big, inevitably we're going to run out.
Yep.
Right? And the people who are still making new games for old consoles, the people who are maintaining them, that group of people, they're going to disappear. So it should be one's goal to constantly introduce new people to the thing that you truly love.
Yep. And you think about it too, Jay, you know, our generation, or like just current, you know, I guess millennials and even slightly Generation Z, and then I guess you could say as all the way up to Generation Xers.
Yeah.
You know, we look at the video games from the 80s and the 90s and probably even the early 2000s with, you know, a deep affinity and a fondness for nostalgia. And so we treat it, you know, video games like as art. But there's no telling what like the next future generation of gamers now, if they're going to look at the medium with that nostalgic feel. So you are right. It is very critical for, you know, not just the preservation of video games, but, you know, ensuring that the perspective of the medium is maintained. Otherwise, who knows? Like all this work that we're going to be doing is all for nothing at the end.
Nostalgia is an easy sell.
Yeah.
Because I'm relating to you about something you experienced in your childhood. What you need to focus on is increasing interest in a person who never experienced those things.
Yep.
You know, that's really, that's what you're saying. I agree with you.
Yep.
Because, you know, because it's so easy to keep someone interested in something they already love. You know, you have to convince a kid who's 18 years old now that by the time he's 25 and he's looking for something to be into, that he's going to be interested in cleaning 72-pin connector on an NES.
Yeah.
You know? And the emulation, although I support emulation because I feel like you should have the right to experience something before you put a lot of money into it. Although, but you need to also be like, hey, it's worth making sure that this physical copy exists.
Yeah.
And you're also kind of educating them a little too, like in the market, right? I believe in physical copies. You know, all this downloadable content, well, it disappears over time. As a consumer, give me a physical copy of a complete game.
Yeah, you know, and that's what I'm worried about of this generation, the new generation of gamers, that they're only being kind of introduced to the digital platforms. You know, when they get to our age, when they get older and they have that nostalgia feeling, there's no saying that these games will be in the right rights holders, that they'll be available, you know?
Yeah.
Like, hey, there's no Netflix out right now of video games, and I'm not sure if there ever will be, because there's no way to unify that under one platform, under one emulation type of setup. Like, it's almost unfathomable to even think that right now.
Yeah,
I do want to get to some questions because a lot of people are asking a bunch of stuff.
Sorry, guys.
So this came from Playable Podcast, and so for people who don't know, Jay Baam was a special guest at LI Retro in 2019. Actually gave a panel. So I'm not sure what they're referring to here, but they're asking, what was the name of that weird N64 knockoff thing you got when we were there? You were giddy.
Oh man, this is gonna sound embarrassing. I don't know if I remember. I get giddy often. God, what the hell did I buy for N64? Oh, all right. Well, I don't quite remember, but I'll give you a good story about our podcast friends over here. And did you ever get more games for that system? For the system, man, I gotta think about this. I'm so sorry, it's not ringing a bell. But what I do remember is when I picked up a complete box Beat 'em and Eat 'em for the Atari.
Oh, what?
Okay, they were there with me. It's an adult game titled Beat 'em and Eat 'em, and the cover is a woman licking an ice cream cone because it's adult content. I mean, it's for the Atari 2600, so how bad could it be nowadays? But they couldn't get over how amped I was to pick this thing up. And no, I didn't get it for any perverted reasons. I'm just a completionist. So yeah, I do remember that moment with them.
When you were buying it from the vendor, were you sweating profusely?
Only from doing the jumping jacks. That's the thing. I don't ever sweat, man. Like, I walk in and I'm like, this is it. This is coming home with me. You know, never, you know, this is my number. This is what I can handle. And that's it. And I'll make peace with it. You know? So no sweating bullets for me.
So we got another question. Talk about that amazing charity event you put on for Brooklyn a few years back.
That was the first real event I ever did. And Unfun Gamer was actually there. So it's really awesome to see him pop in. So there was and
first of all, I just want to say this, Jay. I don't know where all these events are, but I got to start finding out, because
it's looking
as
like
a guy who's a big retro
2021
gamer here, you know, I'll be personally honest. I did not know how big the retro gaming scene was in New York until I went to LI Retro. And this is not like a plug for LI Retro.
LI Retro is the best in the game.
But I mean, I'm just being honest. I didn't realize there was such a big community in the New York tri-state area for retro games.
I didn't either. Don't feel bad.
Yeah. So wherever these events are happening, please, like, you know, you got to let us know so we can share them out there. But anyways, do continue.
So this is going back almost 5 years ago. There's a member of our community. He goes by the name of the Shiz. So it turns out his daughter was suffering from liver cancer, and she needed a transplant, and they were really tight on money. So people started to do charity events, and I was fully in support of it, but I also believe put your money where your mouth is. You know, so like when you're going to go help somebody, try to do something that you could do. And it was the most amazing thing. I could shout out a whole list of people who donated merchandise to be sold. My friend who owns tattoo shop on Dykeman, up in northern Manhattan, said I can use the space. And over several weeks, we got everything together, and I set up my first video game event.
So this was it.
This was it. This was the
first
legitimate. So we raised just under $5,000, and it was an amazing event. It was this is where we're talking about the GameCube. I gave that away to kind of help awareness. Everybody that attended, everybody who donated something, kind of got into this raffle. So the whole GameCube kiosk went up the stairs and I went out the door with somebody else.
Well,
it was beautiful.
Here's my question for that person who won it. Were they prepared to take it home?
Amazingly, it was a brother-in-law of a collector who was there. So I thought that was awesome that it did go to somebody who was a non-collector, who had no idea that it was going to be 250 pounds. And I also think it was great because I ended up becoming really good friends with that collector, and he didn't take it. So his brother-in-law actually has it in his basement.
That's pretty cool.
But
first of all, for those who don't know what a GameCube kiosk looks like, it's not just tall and like just disjointed and everything. It's not an easy task bringing that around, man.
There's a 1/4-inch piece of steel at the bottom. Like there's a plate the plate alone is like 150 pounds. I know. I pick up heavy things for a living, and I'm like, that thing sucked. I had to go up a narrow New York City staircase to get to the damn tattoo shop. Well,
so I kind of want to go into because we only got 20 minutes, but I do want to kind of bring up one of the big things that you've done, and I believe it was it December, January? I'm not sure when it had.
It was November, and
so
my God, you had video. That's really awesome.
Yeah, so I just want to let people know what this is. This is Complex Con. This is what we're looking at. For those of you who don't know what Complex Con is, it's set up by Complex, which is like probably one of the biggest media pop culture outlets out there. And I believe maybe like twice a year they host a convention called Complex Con, and it's considered one of, if not the premier, I guess, pop culture / I guess current events expos anywhere, like in the world. I think the only thing that's probably comparable at this point is probably like maybe San Diego Comic-Con, but Complex Con is made more so for, I'll not to diss anyone that goes to Comic-Con, it's made for like the cool kids. Let's kind of, it's like the sneaker kids, the kids who are like, they're in the music
There's
scene.
big money there.
Like, really into art. And so Jay Baam was invited to basically set up a massive gaming installation at Complex Con, which, to be honest with you, that's like the creme de la creme, the cream of the crop in terms of where you would want to have an installation to reach the masses and to, I guess, in terms of a curating sense, be put in the level of like, okay, this is really cool. And I'm not trying to overhype this or even try to like do a super plug. This is just like reality. It's like kids want to go to Complex Con because they want to know like what's hot right now. You were invited to basically set up this massive installation. And I believe this was in Long Beach, California. So you had to travel across the country to do this.
Yeah.
Run me through the whole story. How did this all came about? How did it, happen? Because this is a very interesting thing. Like how they got even a hold of you. How does all,
Well, we, it was through existing relationships that developed throughout this whole journey. We were hired by the people behind Dope Roots, that we moved through Dope Roots. Actually, some of them actually worked directly through for Complex Magazine. It was a hell of a project to put together. We didn't know if it was going to happen. When we got it, we didn't know what direction we were going to go into. But the quick background, I did set up a company with Dan from Video Games New York and our good friend Kevin, who I'll shout out later, was on IG. It's called Game Installations. We were going to give it a real launch in 2020. It's kind of pointless right now because you can't do any events. But Game Installations was hired by Mountain Dew and Complex to do the Mountain Dew booth. And we were hired to do what we do best, which is bring in nostalgia. I have to have a huge thank you to Steve from Lost Levels out in Claremont and Fullerton,
Mhm.
because Steve was my relationship with Steve is really good. You know, we kind of look at each other, you know, as peers, you know, because he's doing things kind of like this with his arcades out in California. Steve did help me allocate a lot of the things that were here, but a lot of this was shipped over from New Jersey and New York to California.
Wow. And so did you have a floor plan like ahead of time?
Yeah.
Or, again, did you have to just figure this out when you got there?
Once again, like we were talking about before, floor plans are amazing.
Yeah.
That video that you're seeing kind of looks like what we intended on doing when we got there, but then I had to make changes on the fly. I didn't sleep. There were 2 nights there I didn't get any sleep at all. I landed in LA. I was there for 6 days. Long Beach and LA are not close to each other. If anyone's ever been out there, traffic is horrendous. I had to pick up arcade machines. I had to pick up TVs. I had to pick up consoles, furniture, you name it. And they were all over the place. So it was 6 18-hour days.
Wow.
To finish to get this done.
And how long, I guess, was the actual, once you were actually there, like at the convention?
2 days.
2 days to get this all ready.
So it was a day and a half to get it ready. The event was 2 days, and I had to break down that night.
When you had to leave.
Yeah.
Wow. That is wild. And the video that we're showing here, it's only kind of a portion, unfortunately, so it's not like the full view. And, you know, we can't really show like the wider view to see how like massive and all the cool things that are being set up there. But you did really cool. It wasn't just like retro games. You were also doing like modern stuff.
Yeah. So we were sponsored by Call of Duty also.
Yep.
So, excuse me. So we had virtual reality there. We had retro arcade machines, consoles. We were rocking PS4s on that wall, as you could see.
Yep.
So we supplied all of the gaming material, you know, everything, display cases, etc. The set itself was built by a company called 20 Foot Bear, and I got to tell you, they're pros. I mean, they're absolute pros.
Was that the look that you wanted? Was kind of
other
like
than that couch,
like a basement, kind of like gamer's basement.
Yeah. I didn't want that couch.
Pretty popular. Well, I can kind of see there's like all these posters in the background as well.
Mm-hmm.
Was that stuff that you guys had to just like print out, or was that like actual like original?
You know, for that we printed it out. It was advantageous to print it out. However, everything else there is original. There's nothing, no repros or anything. That's all original hardware. That's what I love to do.
And what's that big? What's that big Game Boy thing in the back?
So awesome. All right. So once again, Steve at Lost Levels, he kind of opened up the keys to the store and he goes, "Take what you need."
Wow.
And someone wore that as a costume at his Halloween party, the Halloween prior to this event. They literally showed up with a Game Boy and their face sticking out of it. And I had this perfect Game Boy advert poster printed out. I look at it and go, "Steve, I need that. I need that, man. Take it." So I threw it right up there. So back to, you know, doing things on the fly. I didn't anticipate having that, but when I looked at it and when I saw it, you know, in the setup, I said, "Man, this really brings the entire room together. It really grabs the attention, you know, to the focal point." You know, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it right here, I just want to play. You know, like, I mean, from just this one picture, and then I'm gonna share this picture, which is pretty cool. You know, unfortunately, I can't really zoom it out in Instagram Live, but it's Swaggy P. I believe he doesn't play for the Lakers anymore. I think he plays for the Nets.
Yeah, no, he's all good now, but he's got his money.
Yeah. But it's Swaggy P, and here you are on the couch playing with them, like right at you know, Complex Con. What was, I guess, just describe the feeling. I mean, obviously, I get it. You're working the entire time that this is happening. And so it's a little bit hard to, you know, to kind of enjoy. But, you know, what's going through your mind as you're seeing this? And a reason I also... What's that?
All right. Let me tell you about that experience. That was as organic as it gets. So here I am. I know who Swaggy P is. I had celebrities walking in and out of the place all day long. I'm not starstruck, right? Like I'm here to do a job. You're there to enjoy yourself. That's where it starts and stops for me. Yep. But that was a real moment between two people. That was one of the best goddamn games I ever had on GoldenEye ever.
Oh, yeah, because I could see
All right.
the N64 control. I was going to ask you what you guys were playing.
Okay. So Swaggy P is literally playing. I asked him if he was having a good time. He said, yeah. I said, all right, I'm going to kick your ass in GoldenEye now. Because I just told him flat out. He goes, oh, yeah. So we sit down. And I got to tell you, I almost didn't kick his ass. He's good.
Oh.
He's good.
So he was legit. He knew how to play it.
Yeah.
He's not like just some guy that just said,
No.
I'll play. Wow.
I'm lethal at GoldenEye. I mean, like, you want to talk about high school experience?
Yeah.
It was, yeah. It was doing things I wasn't supposed to do in a basement, playing that game with a bunch of other people. Like, that was it, you know? Like, and I got to tell you, he slapped me to death one round.
He slapped you doing.
I got him with a few headshots. I swear to God, it was so. The score ended up being 6-8, and it was the most competitive game I've ever had. And I completely forgot who I was sitting next to. I was so in that moment.
Wow.
And me and him kept laughing, and you know. And I will say this afterwards: one of the nicest people I met there. It was a really great experience.
There's a gazillion pictures of you on Getty or Wire Image. I forget which of the photo aggregators, but it's this view at Swaggy P playing, and it's like just amazing watching that, or looking at that. And I guess like I just kind of want to get into, not everyone can kind of do these gaming installations, to be blunt, because you got to have the stuff to do it.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to, bring a retro game experience, you got to talk the talk and walk the walk. But in order to do that, you got to have the stuff to back it up. And a lot of people who are big retro gaming collectors, they love showing it off on social media, but they don't like showing it to the public, because it's a pretty scary thing to have someone, kick, your kiosk or whatnot. I guess how are you so open to just letting people play some of these things that are very expensive,
Because at some point things start to lose their luster when you keep them locked up in a room by themselves. These things were meant to be enjoyed. And for me personally, I get more satisfaction out of sitting down with a group of people who appreciate what's in front of them than I do just walking down. I do a lot of posts, on Instagram, and, I do videos, and, I try to be informative sometimes. Sometimes I try to be goofy. But at the end of the day, when I'm at my happiest on Instagram, it's when you see me with a bunch of strangers, experiencing that moment together. That's when I'm at my happiest. And I get what you're saying, where people are hesitant to do that.
Yeah, it's funny because you'll see some people with the most amazing collections, but we'll never get a chance to touch it. We'll never get a chance to play it. And, the work that you've been doing, like you said, this has taken you 17 years at least, right, of amassing this collection and putting it on display. Not a lot of people are willing to, people who have just collected for like the last 3 years aren't even willing to do that.
Yeah.
And so you're doing really the video game industry, and I would say just, the general public, you're doing that, all of their service.
And the nurses are back.
So what I guess has been like, just as you've been doing these installations and these, I should say as art installations, let's be real, they're not gaming installations, they're really at this point art installations. What's been kind of like the most heartwarming moment that you've seen, or something that just kind of like really struck a chord with you, like, wow, like this is all worth it?
Without a doubt, the night, I remember I briefly touched upon it, I had a homeless gentleman come up when I was doing the gaming on the street. And towards the end of the night, where it's about 1 a.m, I was on 19th Street and 8th Avenue in the corner with PlayStation 1 playing.
Yeah.
And there was a homeless man that came up, and he legitimately started crying, weeping, because me and him were playing together on the PS1. And he goes, the last time I had this console was the last time I was in a home.
Wow.
So I ended up having a real New York moment. I'm not here to be, politically correct. I'm a street guy. I went out, cracked a beer open with him, drank a beer on the street with a homeless guy who was sobbing, and we had the most human moment there was. That was I don't care what else I do for the rest of my life. That's when you're, even if it's just for a split second, you're bringing some level of joy to someone's life. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, I think about that, Jay. What is the significance about video games? And I think people sometimes forget video games are they are an escape, and B, they are also like a story. And I think people who kind of really kind of don't understand the culture of video games will sometimes, you know, look over that, and they won't realize that in a way, video games are a way for us to kind of escape the troubles that we have, and it unites people, because in a video game, theoretically, we're not ourselves. We're all like a character. We're all equal in that case. And you know, that, I think that's like a really amazing story, just discussing like something that, you know, really hit. And especially, it's a real New York story when you really think about it. These are not things that you really kind of experience elsewhere. So in terms of, I guess, like your collection in general, and just like putting it on installations, have you ever had to like downsize, or kind of is it just getting bigger and bigger? Really?
99% of the time, my collection is growing. There was a time where I sold some stuff. I really don't do that, though. I'm not a reseller. I have no desire to be a reseller. I can't begin to tell you how many duplicates I have. I end up, you know, justifying my insanity by doing events. You know, now it's cool to have 10 copies of Mario Bros. Because, you know, of that reason. Like I do stuff with people, but I have no interests. But there are times when you got to be a man and you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know, very rare, thank God, but it's, you know, it's happened. You know, and no one in this hobby should ever put their well-being after their collection.
That's true.
No,
That's
no
right.
one. I don't. Gene, if you told me I've got 5 games in my collection, but I just absolutely adore gaming and I love the experiences and I like being around other people that like it, you mean your peers. You don't need to have 12 or 14,000 games to be my friend.
See, I love hearing that, because I think in the world of retro gaming, it's almost been kind of like an arms race to see like, hey, who's got the most, you know, most to show. And
ridiculous.
yeah, in reality, again, like that's why I love in terms of like the installations that you're doing, because you're kind of allowing people who don't also have access, or, you know, don't, you know, have the means to get to, you know, experience a lot of like these like rarities, or like kind of like the, you know, games from like the past. You're allowing people to have that opportunity and share it, not that in a community experience. That's what makes video gaming better. It's like when you can actually enjoy it with other people.
You know, I'm the luckiest one in that deal. I get more out of it than anybody else in the room. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, I'm not doing something benevolent. I'm doing something I absolutely love doing. You know, it's so I'm lucky. I'm happy.
Yeah.
You know, you put me in a room with a bunch of people, like I'm glad they got to experience it, but I guarantee I'm walking out with the biggest smile, you know, anyone in the room.
Yeah.
I just enjoy that. I really do.
And so lastly, because, you know, we only have about maybe 7 minutes left, I do want to just touch base that, you know, you're a small business owner. You actually recently opened a billiards venue in New Jersey, which has a full arcade setup, but obviously during this time, it's a little bit tough to manage. So I guess, like, what would be your advice for people, or just like some words to say, like, how we can support venues? Obviously, it's a little difficult. And as well as, like, what are some areas of video games that, or some video game vendors, I guess, that we can, you know, look out for here in the New York area, or the tri-state area in general, I guess?
Well, you know, as far as, like, we'll start with my place, and then we'll go into what's more important, which is other people's small businesses. There's not much that, like, you know, my partner and I could do. You know, we're an entertainment facility at the end of the day, right? We have pool, you know, we have retro gaming installations, we have ping pong. You can't sell that door-to-door service, right? So me and him just have to hopefully can ride out this storm and survive. But if not, at least I took a shot at it, and that's the attitude that I have to have. You know, I can't control the pandemic. So
and what's the name of it? What's would you mind saying what the name of the
Breaker Billiards in Clifton, New Jersey.
Got it. And you can follow it on Instagram. Make sure you follow it on Instagram. I believe it's Breaker Billiards.
Breaker Billiards, yeah.
Right on. Make sure you follow that, guys.
We were just completing a very large gaming installation. So what I wanted to do is, you know, back to talking the talk, you know, walking the walk. You know, I bought a facility, you know, because I want to share gaming with people. I love billiards, you know, I enjoy it, but I also have my ulterior motive, which is in putting in the things that I like sharing, which are gaming. So we have TV set up with 16 mounted consoles per TV. We'll push it a button. Yeah. So you have a full library of 16 consoles on one TV.
Wow.
as far as other small businesses, there are other businesses in the retro community that you can actively support now. Locally in the New York, New Jersey area, I can think of Video Games New York. I have a real love for Video Games New York because they get some of the rarest stuff in. Video Games New York is in Manhattan. You have Brooklyn Video Games. You have Gotham City Games, which is in Brooklyn, another smaller shop. You have Digital Press, which is in Clifton, ironically in the same town as my pool hall.
Right on.
And there's a few others, but those are the ones that I really frequent. And they're all really great people. They're owned by great people. So if you are fortunate enough, like I am, to currently have a job and you do have some money in your pocket that's disposable right now, go out of your way and support a small business, especially in our community. Buy something. To help them out.
Yeah, and I would say, if you don't have the means to buy something online, the very least you can do is follow them on social media.
Yeah.
Because when this is all said and done, believe me, all the promotion that's we're going to need to get people back in the game, we need to do that. We need to kind of literally a follow makes a big difference. I tell you that as running the social accounts for LA Retro. Every follow matters, every like matters, every share matters, and so you can do things that don't necessarily require money. And I think that's really kind of Jay, what you're saying is that if you don't have the means, there's other ways you can support. But when this is all said and done, it'd be really great to, again, people, don't be afraid. Small business owners like Jay, they're aware of the situation and they'll make sure that the means for people to enjoy their venues will be done in a safe and but still enjoyable manner. So, but yeah,
your safety comes first. At the end of the day, I don't want you, I don't want a customer, I don't want a friend, I don't want a family member, I don't want anyone to get sick. Right now you have to take it serious. So as much as it hurts right now, if it wasn't the law right now I would stay shut down. But the day that we can safely open up, we will. I'm hoping to God you guys want to shoot some pool.
I would love to visit, Jay. Seriously, you posted photos of it when you guys were first pre-opening, and it just looked sick. And I mean, I was like, wow, because I gotta be real. We have barcades in New York City, but we don't really have a retro gaming venue.
I love arcade. I love arcades. I love arcade machines. They're part of my experience. I am a home video game guy, and I wanted to make sure that people like us had a home. And so that's it. That's the whole point to it. It's so me, Gene, and anybody else that kind of likes that can come over and chill out and have an experience like that.
Right on, man. Right on. And so, Jay, I guess where can people, just for people who are just discovering all your works and I guess all the installations that they can keep up with, where can they, I guess, follow you, or where can they keep track?
I guess Instagram right now is the best place. Jay Baam official, and the only reason why I put official is someone stole my name. So no, there's no narcissism there. I just, my name is Jason. My last name is Bamandi. My name on IG is Jay Baam, but fortunately it is now Jay Baam official.
Right on, man. Right on.
So, but from there, at some point when the world go back to normal, we'll expand upon things like game installation and breaker billiards.
Right on. And one last question, Jay. If LI Retro we had the opportunity, would you ever do an installation for us?
100%.
Right
Pro
on.
bono. Pro bono, man. You just rent the truck.
If the owners are hearing this right now, guys, please, let's get on this right now.
You guys have always been good to me, so it's all about propping everybody up in the community, man. So yeah, but I tell you what, though, the last place that needs my help is LI Retro. You guys do an amazing thing.
Well, thank you, Jay. Thank you. Well, everyone, I just want to say thanks again for watching. Jay, thanks again for taking this time on a Saturday night to do this Instagram Live with us. Again, make sure to follow Jay Baam official on Instagram, as well as Breaker Billiards, which is his venue that he owns in is it Clifton?
Yes,
Clifton, New Jersey. And Jay, we look forward to seeing more of what you'll be setting up, as well as just keeping up with how you're keeping the community, the retro gaming community, in the mix. So Jay, thanks again for your time tonight. Thanks everyone for watching tonight. This has been a really fun interview. We've just been all over the place. So
I gotta tell you, I'm upset that it's only going to be an hour. I had a good time talking to Gene. As you guys gotta know, I like Gene. Like this is two friends talking.
we only got 15 seconds left, but that's the first time my name has ever been mentioned in any of these interviews. So Jay and everyone out there, thanks again for tuning in.